You ready?
Turn that
Okay. Nobody yet. It's what's the date? Tuesday, November 19th. This is our Town of Monroe 2020 preliminary budget meeting. Hopefully we will approve the budget this evening and finalize where we are for 2020. So if we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey Val, can you, I just want to make sure I'm on the right spot. So I can see it a little.
Okay.
Okay, so I prepared, the first slide is the fund balance comparison through the years. And Jen prepared this comparison, and it goes from 2008 through 2017. Good evening, Mr. Egan, how are you?
How you doing, Mike?
I didn't want you guys to feel that no one cared.
No, and I appreciate, well, actually, our first slide was what we discussed.
Pertaining to you, yeah.
Yeah, last meeting, so,
Gotta get up closer.
do we have, well, no, I'll give you a copy of it if you'd like.
Is that in, just picked up here in the back?
No, that's the
no.
budget, that's not the,
Is there an extra copy down there, Val?
my,
No, that's,
Thanks, Val.
grants. Okay, so Helen and Roberta diligently, over the last 2 days, have been trying to locate our records going back as far as 2008. So we found AUDs from, audits from 2008 and 2011. And the 2011 audit had the 2010 numbers. And then we found obviously we didn't find, but we had our audits from 2016 and 17, and the 16 number kind of did some, the accountants did some work and found the 2015 numbers. So those are the present fund balances from 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, there were no audits. So there was essentially no numbers there other than the ones that the accountants kind of worked up based on the numbers for the previous year. So right now, after 17, there's $6.463643 million in the fund balances. And that's a combination of the general fund, special districts, town outside the village, capital projects, highway, and non-major governmental. So if you look at the bar graph on the left, you'll see that the special districts, which were titled capital projects back then, you'll notice there's a change in the titles as well. That was a negative. Obviously, we've come back quite a bit, and in the capital projects, we are down. We are up as of 17. We were down in 16, and in the special districts, we're up. So we're up just short of $500,000. That's for all the special districts: water, sewer, drainage. So that's where we stand right now. The number for 18 is not an audited number, correct? So our audit was complete, and we hope to have those numbers finalized by the end of the year, so we will be up to date. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Do we know what was spent in each of these years? Out of the fund balance?
Well, all I could tell you is that the numbers I gave you last month, which aren't on this, are what was spent. But I don't have all the years because I don't have audits. And the AUDs were very difficult to obtain for those years as well, so.
So the good news, I was right, you're building it up here.
Yeah,
Excuse me, Mike, can you come up to the,
Yeah.
to those?
You wanna come up to the
Because
table?
nobody can hear what you're saying.
Or you can come up here, Mike.
That might be better, Rick. Nobody-
I mean, the other people might object in the audience, but I
So-
don't.
So, from 15 to 16, that jump of $1 million in fund balance, that's a little deceiving, because it was attributed to the garbage district being taken out of the budget, put below the tax cap, but yet that 1.7 million from the garbage district still remained in the budget. So they took it out, used it in the budget for the tax cap, so that they weren't $1.7 million below the tax cap. So that's where the million fund came in. And that was a tool that was used that was not compatible with proper budgeting. I guess that's the best way
And that was
to-
just done in that year? It hadn't been done prior?
No,
And
Nope.
then, that was what year?
that was 16 when it was done. Yeah, it was the budget from 15 that was done in 16. And that's why the balance went up after 16.
And then I'm losing track of time. That's what happens as you get older. And then in 16, is that when you were the acting supervisor? I don't really remember.
16 is when Mike and I came in, and I became acting supervisor for 2 months.
And then you stopped that practice?
Yes,
from
yeah,
16?
yeah, going from 16 to 17, we stopped that practice.
Okay. Great.
So I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So the tax cap levy on the next slide, that's the tax cap levy. So in 2018, it was just over 7 million. In 2019, it was 7 million. The tax cap limit was 7,150,000. And the tax cap levy that year was 6.267 million and change. This year, our tax cap limit was 6,539,000, and our levy came in at $6,472,865. In essence, putting us under the tax cap by $66,559, which, when you're comparing levies, we remain below our allowance, and it came out to 3.27% increase in the levy. But as we go to the next slide, you'll see that the tax change for 2019 is represented by a reduction in the village tax of minus 1.18 and an increase in the town tax of 1.89. Now, we did have to add in a little more from the fund balance. We added 45, Helen?
In which fund are we talking?
What we used from fund balance for this year's budget. Because we went up.
In total?
Yeah,
235,000.
right, but did we add 45 or, I think we added 45, because it was at 190, I believe, from,
Yes, we did. Yes, you're right. I think, was that in the B fund?
yes, we added
It
from
was.
the B fund, yeah. Because we had the purchase of a new truck, or lease of a new truck, which numbers were not in there. Now, subsequently, in the last week, we have also negotiated an IMA with Palm Tree for the storage of their salt for the winter season. They will be purchasing it They will also be loading the salt from here into their trucks, and we were able to secure $22,000 a year from that IMA.
That's not reflected in here, right?
Yes, it is.
It is reflected in
Yeah,
there. So
yeah, it
that's
is.
part of that 66,000 that we're.
Under, yeah,
Under, okay.
yeah, yep. Yeah, if you go into
So
the,
without that, we'd be somewhere in the 40s?
Yeah.
4 or roughly, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yep. But the increase, I think, would have went up to like almost 2.8, so,
Good.
yeah. So
Awesome.
it worked out good. Listen, I will give kudos to Helen and Roberta for their diligence in making sure that we, worked every line and looked over every aspect of not only the rate summary sheet, but the entire budget, so.
Now, listen,
Excellent.
there's no
Thank you.
doubt,
Excellent.
there's no doubt that they did an excellent job, along with yourself there, Mr. Supervisor, not to sell you short, but I know this was a very challenging budget to prepare this year, and especially compared to years past when it was not quite as transparent, so.
Well, gentlemen, I think what you also have to keep in mind, since the formation of Palm Tree, we projected an increase of taxes of over 200. You're well below that.
Yep.
This is really showing the kind of work that's being done by our finance department and the town board, that we were expecting an increase of 200, and you're nowhere near that. In fact, for the village home, it even went down, which is incredible. It's just, it's really an amazing budget when you stop and you think that we were expecting an extraordinary, what I would say, an extraordinary jump past the 2%.
Yeah, I agree,
and
Rick. There
Yep.
was some dire predictions by
Yeah.
by people of how bad this was going to be for us, and well, I'm glad to see that those were.
And if you look at town lighting, remember we were talking how that was at around 80,000?
Right.
And now it's down to 43.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought that up, Rick. Let me explain that. Because, so that 43 represents, electric costs of $14,867 and approximately 38,000, I think, 28,000 in cost for the
Changeover?
conversion.
Conversion.
So we based it on a 7-year payout that looked like the most profitable, and if the board is okay with that, I'd like to move forward with that, because it seemed to give us the best, not necessarily the quickest, but the best rate of return.
Sure.
And then after the 7th year, and I don't have that sheet in front of me, I apologize.
Approximately.
It was a $60,000 plus.
Reduction?
No, plus on our side.
Yeah.
So
In a sense,
it's
reduction,
difference.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, cash positive,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah. So,
This is, this,
Great.
I mean,
And if-
really, I mean, everybody who's worked on this, it's
yeah.
It's a great job.
If anyone saw, there was actually an article in their Times Herald Record, I want to say, last week, and it pertained to Warwick's similar move with this. And actually, it's the same company that Warwick used. So Warwick was given kudos. I actually spoke to Michael Sweeten, and he was very instrumental in saying, listen, you could check with other companies, which we did, but you're not going to find a better,
but
better
this,
arrangement than this.
this is what you get when you have management on a board and in a town that can work with other municipalities to find these things. We're working very well with other municipalities, so it's no longer an extraordinary tug of war.
No question. Just for example, I was at a seminar this morning for our dial buses that Warwick was at, Monroe was at, Wallkill was at, and Cornwall were at. and it was a training seminar. And, they asked myself, Supervisor Sweeten, and the Commissioner of Highways in Wallkill, Lou Ingrassia, to attend the morning session, just so we can, basically offer thank yous and kudos to all those driving.
Right. Everybody in town, I think the town, all of the employees are working well. Everybody is reasonably content, because you can't always say everybody's happy, but I think that the morale in town hall and throughout the town and highway, I've never seen it higher.
It starts from the top,
Yes.
And this is including, Mr. Supervisor, the lawsuit against us as well,
This is
correct?
including $264,500 in debt from the lawsuit, which numbers were verified yesterday by Helen through Munistat, so.
And imagine if we didn't have it.
That's what I was just
Yep.
going to say, could you imagine if we didn't have that debt,
Yeah,
Um,
unbelievable.
you
Yeah.
could do something else with that money.
Future looks bright in Monroe.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, there's $15,000 in here to do an engineering study for a new highway / dial-a-bus garage. So,
And we got the grants that are coming along as well.
yeah, and that, Rick, you want to go over that? That's,
May I?
yeah, that's why I brought that sheet. So
Okay,
there- you should have a sheet
yeah, I got it in front of me.
in front of you. Mike,
We,
there's one right there if you want. I don't know if you want it, Jeff, there's copies up here.
Last year, when we were at the Association of Towns meeting, I was speaking to an individual by the name of Dave Jenkins, who works with Millennium Strategies, and they were a company that does grant writing. We had a very good conversation, and it seemed very productive. I followed through, I talked to the board, and we went back and forth, and finally, we got them signed up, and they were very good. They even allowed us to get the village on board as well. So we got the village of Harriman and Monroe on board with us, further cut the price. To date, I'm going to read off on what we have in the pipeline so far that Millennium is getting us. At the top, we just started a zero-emission vehicle infrastructure grant program that's going to get us 2 stations. Each station will be able to recharge 2 cars. So we'll have electric power to recharge cars at the new town hall. And 95% of that cost will be carried by the grant. The only amount that will be expended by the town will be when the highway department installs them. So I think that's a big positive right there.
And where is that, at the new town hall?
At the new town hall, on the upper parking lot and lower.
That's great.
So we have 2 stations that'll hold 4 cars total. So if you have an electric vehicle or hybrid, you can always plug in over there while you're doing your town business as well. And that'll help also in,
Is that Charge Point? Who's the, what are the charging stations? Are they Charge Point or some other?
I'm not sure at this point, I didn't get that. That's gonna be up to us actually to get that. So we have the last word on which ones we wanna get.
Okay.
I think that's pretty
These are
good.
just, I guess, Mike, what we applied for, and it's in
This is the grant
pipeline.
that's just gonna pay for it.
Right.
So it's not giving us a specific one that we have to have.
Yeah. No, I know, I'll talk to you, because we just obtained, like 8 of them at work, so.
Great.
Through a NYSERDA grant, actually, so.
For the Village of Monroe PD, they got a Stanton Foundation for first and second dog. That's to help the canine. That's up to $25,000 right there alone. Spirit of Blue Safety Grant, that's a rolling grant program for the Village of Harriman PD. The average award is $5,000, $5,000 to $10,000. That's going to depend on what Harriman gets. So they can get a maximum of $10,000 up to $5,000 just for their PD on that alone.
I think that one kind of incorporates bulletproof vests.
Yeah,
and anything
that type of
else.
thing, body cameras, whatever. So whatever Harriman decides to get with that, that's found money that we wouldn't have not have gotten before. Firehouse substations, public safety grant, that's another $25,000 right there. And that's for the Monroe Police and Fire Safety. The big one is going to be here, it's 150,000, it's New York State Archives for local government records. So now what they're going to be paying for, or giving us quite a bit, I believe it'll cover what, about 90%?
I think it
Of that?
was, yeah, I think it was 90%.
90% for the storage and security for archival records for the village clerk. That means it'll be temperature controlled, humidity controlled, and also safety. It'll be a central point to keep all of our records. Without that grant, we'd be spending well over $150,000 on that alone. Infrastructure improvement for drinking water, that's for Water District 12. Did that one go through yet?
No, we didn't hear
No,
But it's going to be going through,
Yeah.
how much are we going to be getting on that? It's a max of
that I think goes through in January, maybe?
Yeah.
December or January.
December, January. So that's going to be quite a bit of money, also found money for Water District 12. New York State Local Government Efficiency Grant. This is to fund the completion of Solid Waste Management Shared Services Study. This is going to help with MUDNA. So that's another $25,000 there. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, this for Source of Pollution Program grant. This is to fund the investigation and design of a project to rehabilitate the culvert on Berry Road. That's about, what, 30,000 right there if we get that grant through. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Wastewater Engineering Planning Grant Program. This is to fund townwide engineering study to identify and mitigate the inflow and infiltration movement of gray water throughout the town. In other words, it's going to help our sewer pipes. And that's a lot of money right there. That's another 30,000. New York's Office of Parks. This is going to be something that's near and dear to my heart, as well as Jim, our town historian. That is going to give us, now this is for the Checkerboard Inn, and this is to fund the completion of a full conditioning assessment, as well as plans and specifications for the restoration of the Checkerboard Inn. So in other words, it's going to pay for the engineering study and funding for the engineering as well. That grant is going to be almost $94,000 right there alone. And that doesn't even include, that's going to include another grant that we should be getting shovel-ready for next year for the rehabilitation of the Checkerboard Inn.
Well, thank you, Rick. I know you've worked diligently on it. You've been there, talking with Dave and trying to see these through. And just to make everyone clear on this, these are what we've applied for. We have not received confirmation on any of them. So, it's our hope. If we get 25% of what we're looking for, it'd be great. Although, the one I would take without hesitation is the Water District 12 one.
Yeah, well,
Me too.
but a lot of this, Mr. Supervisor, a lot of this money is going to be coming through. I think 25 is extremely conservative, which I understand. But if we do get, and there's another 2 pages, we can go on and on. They've put in for what, about a good 20 grants? Maybe a little bit more. If we get even 25%, it will be a big positive for this town. It's found money. So kudos to Millennium Strategy. Let's see what we get for this year and the coming year. Thank you for that, Mr. Supervisor.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
Rick.
Nice job, Rick.
Good work.
Excellent.
Yes, Rick.
Thanks.
So, does anybody have any questions with respect to the budget? We have also put in there, Mary, the debt service for Water District 12, which comes out to $20,000 in principal and $20,000 in a ban interest, and that was 30 years?
30, yes.
30.
So, Mary, just so you know, that portion of the tax bill is gonna be approximately $2,560 for each resident.
Spread out over,
No, that's for the year.
for the year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm doing it by 41 users, right?
40.
40?
Just increased it.
I know.
Oh, let's see. It's 2625.
Well, let's hope we get the grant.
Yes, exactly.
I'm working on it.
So if no one has any questions, if everybody's, okay
Tony,
with
can I-
everything here?
Can I ask a?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So two quick questions. I'll just ask them and then ask them both at once. I'm just curious, I didn't look in here carefully enough. What drives the decrease in the village levy? And, that's different than the town levy. It's going down. And then the other question is, I know from previous communication we had that you felt that the highway department was underfunded in years past. I don't at all disagree with that. I think that's right. Being a resident and observing and also attending many board meetings over many years and the exchanges among town board members, highway supervisor indicated the same thing. So I think it's a great idea to invest in that department. It's really literally where the rubber meets the road, and residents experience it every day. But could you talk about what you're doing in this budget and what you did in the prior budget to build that department back up?
So number one, obviously, we're purchasing another truck this year. This will be the second year in a row that we've purchased a truck. We have, what's been driving a lot of it have been the grant monies that are enabling them to repair roads in different areas that weren't done in the past. Unfortunately, the first year John came in, he had to repair a road, and I think, is it 300,000?
Yeah.
It was $300,000 or so that wasn't really budgeted. Their fund balance was actually negative, I think, when John came in. Now it's up close to
I
500,000.
think you see that in
Yeah.
that slide you
Yeah.
had.
So that was really difficult, for him to stomach. I can remember speaking to him on a weekly basis as it was approaching. And that was because of the scarification of Cromwell Hill Road. You took that road every day like I did. So the other aspect I think that's that's driving is the morale, and I think they're working more efficiently. We've taken out of the B fund a lot of repairs for dial-a-bus, and especially this year because we have new buses. So there's a lot of costs there that are going out. We're trying to lower the maintenance costs by purchasing new trucks and getting on a schedule sometime around 7 years that we'll turn the trucks over, we'll avoid the maintenance cost, and we'll get an investment, a return on our investment of the truck by selling the truck. So, I mean, other than that, it's just, keeping your eyes out for budgets where, as far as going back to the village, you gotta remember I was diligent this year more than last year with the village, because last year the village had over a 9% increase, and we had only a 6% increase in change. So I just felt it was, basically being a good neighbor and wanting to make sure that, they were afforded, a little more leeway with respect to.
How do you do that? Is that a discretionary allocation that you make?
In some respects, yes. In some respects, we applied a little more fund balance than we did last year to it. So, that helped drive that down. And you're also dealing with numbers which are a little bit lower, I would say.
Yeah, well, I think
And
also
then-
too, Tony, we're also estimating a little bit more in the mortgage tax this year than we
Right.
did last year. Like you said, we purchased the new buses, so there's less maintenance. We've also had some employees that were longtime employees that have either retired or have gone part-time, which has brought down the salaries, benefits, everything. So, you know, when you combine that all together, it lowers everything overall.
Yeah, and plus our levy, our taxable value went down a little this year, and the village's taxable value went up.
Oh, yes.
Not substantially, you know, I think 0.003% it was for both of us. So, you know, every little bit, you know, tweaks it here and there.
I think another important thing to point out with Highway is they took on the duties of running our water department, where in the past,
That's
when
true.
we came on, that was being done by a contractor at a cost that was
A lot more.
Over
You know,
$100K.
approaching several $100,000. 237, I think, was the last number, and don't hold me to that. So they took that in-house, and that saved us, you know, countless thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last, you know, 2 years that they've been doing it. And we've increased their personnel, which is another thing. They had been depleted. They were down at least 2-3 guys, or 2 or 3 workers. They're now back up to where they were, or not quite where they were. I think they're one below where they started out, say, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, when they started getting cut down. So those are all positive developments for Highway.
How's the result in terms of the, you know, productivity of the water department versus having Highway run it versus the outside consultant?
Well, I mean, from my personal experience, I mean, I would say that once they took full ownership of it, there was no discernible loss of service. I mean, everything that was being done before, water quality testing, everything that went into that was being done by the private contractor was being done by our personnel. And the good thing about it is those personnel that were, you know, they're dual trained, so their water department, but then come a snowstorm, they're in the trucks, or if there's a water main break, the whole department's in on it. So it wasn't segmented like you're calling and hoping that the contractor's gonna show up. And I think Mary, Water District 12 is a pretty,
It's been a big savings for the water district,
Yeah.
and the response has been great. They know the system,
Yes.
and they understand what can possibly go wrong, like if there's a power failure. So they're on top of it, and they're quick to respond, and they do a great job.
yeah, we're getting them all trained up to get the certifications, or the ones that are involved with it, and that's big, you know. So it was.
And the largest, I would say the largest difference in what made the highways, the part-town go up, was the fact that we lost, we didn't, last year we got a $400,000 grant. This year we didn't get that. And last year we had a KJ IMA for plowing services. So we lost $255,000 there, so.
Tony, I think we probably should just note also on the water, when the highway department does go out and do work in the water districts, the time is noted so that it's charged back to those districts. So it's not like we're paying, everybody is paying for the time that the highway is spending doing water work. It is actually charged back to the districts.
Right.
Right, so if they spend half a
Yeah,
day
private
fixing a
well
leak
owners
on
aren't
Water
paying that.
District 12, those 4 hours or 5 hours are directly billed to Water District 12.
Well, I, for one, speaking for myself, deeply appreciate the fact that we have a well-run town now. Amazing what good people and good people in office can do to produce good government, and We see it in this town now, I think, in lots of different ways. And, you know, this budget, getting, in my opinion, better service in every way than we got previously, at very small increases in costs, despite the fact that we separated, you know, with KJ/Palm Tree, is, you know, it starts at the top. So I appreciate that. I commend all of you for doing it.
Well, and
Thank you.
appreciate your assistance in the infancy of turning things around.
Yeah,
So, thank you.
thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
Especially
Mike.
with the theater.
Don't remind me, please.
Another success story.
Yeah. Hey, just so everyone knows, this past week, the day after Veterans Day, the theater did 2 shows of Midway for veterans. We worked with Christian, I'm drawing a blank on his last name, Mike. Christian,
We're both having a senior moment together
yeah.
here.
I got it
yeah,
on my
I
phone.
know.
Well,
I just saw him too.
yeah, he put together a great, you know, a great program.
Yep.
I think the first show had about 165, and the second show had about 150.
Barrel.
Christian Farrell, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, George. Christian Farrell. So it worked out good. They got a soda.
Where did I go? That's the voice of God.
They were able to get a soda and a popcorn at no charge. I don't know if the county paid for this in the entirety of it, or that
Flagship.
they got a sponsor, and Flagship might have contributed too. But it was a great. I went to both shows at the beginning of it, and it was greatly received by all the veterans. They would really appreciate it. So without any further ado, we need a motion to approve the preliminary budget to make it the final budget, right?
Supervisor?
Adopted budget. But we have to close the public hearing first. Yeah, what's that?
You said it.
Oh, okay. So can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I will make the motion to close the public hearing regarding the budget.
I'll second it.
Okay. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Cologne, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
McKinn, aye.
Okay. So now I would like a motion to make the 2020 preliminary budget the 2020 adopted budget.
I'll make that motion.
Like to second it?
And that was presented this evening. Do we have a second? Any other discussion? Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Cologne, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
McKinn, aye.
Okay, so moved.
Mudna?
Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, Jennifer Soros, who is, handles also our personnel, also handles the personnel issues for Mudna. I wanted to give her a stipend of $1,000 because not only does she handle all of the personnel issues, the hiring, any other issues with that, it's only for a minimal amount of $1,000 because she's been doing an awful lot of work on and off of Mudna. That's out, really kind of a little bit outside of her parameters. That's already in the Mudna budget. It's been approved by the Mudna board, so it also has to be approved by this board so it can be passed along.
You just want to explain that this money does not come out of the,
It does not come out of the town budget.
it comes out of the Mudna budget.
It comes out
So it
strictly out of the
doesn't-
Mudna budget, has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the town.
Yeah.
But because we administer a lot of things here, it would have to be included on, we'd have to vote on that.
If you're making that as a motion, I'll second it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Cologne, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
McKinn, aye.
Okay, so moved. Anything else? Madam Clerk?
You're doing the water levies?
Oh, yes, we have to do water levies. Do you have,
Should be in your packet.
yeah, I know, so I'm looking for my packet here. So item 3.9,
3.1.
3.1,
That's
Yeah, it's just-
Adopted the budget. Okay, so, so be it resolved that the town board of the town of Monroe approves the levying of outstanding water bills from the properties, section block and lots listed below, the following amounts to the 2020 town and county tax bills total water levy. So the section blocks and lots are listed or attached. So we need a motion to approve that.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
There's a lot of people on this list.
There's too many, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're really just hurting their neighbors by not paying when they're supposed to be paying.
Correct.
And that doesn't include Water District 14.
Right, because that was just an official water district the past couple months. Okay.
Okay. Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Cologne, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
Again, I
Okay. So moved. Any public comment?
No one has signed up.
We don't need any executive session this evening?
I thought there was an echo in here.
I don't believe. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Call the question.
Bingham, aye.
Cologne, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scancarello, aye.
again, I
Okay, so moved. Thank you very much, everyone.